Hey, good evening, everybody. We're going to talk all about, after I straighten my tie, talk all about the forecast for the weekend. Real nice weather out there. Let me check on the comments. Good evening, Ian. You're welcome, Roberta. Hello, Donna. Quiet night out there. Another starry night, too. Beautiful weather out there. Oh, and thank you very much, Sissy. All right, got our usual crowd on there tonight on a Thursday night. Let's get to it. Let's talk about this. It may take me a while to get through all of this, and I'm sure you'll have some questions. Type them in. I've got access to them right here. So we'll go back to the circle box there. So tonight, it's clear, but you can notice out in Texas and Oklahoma, the low-level jet stream's picking up, and it's feeding, and we're going to get to that in a second, it's feeding these showers there in Nebraska. Notice the circulation up near Billings, Montana, just west of Bismarck, North Dakota. That's what's starting to pull down the cooler air. And you also may notice in the Pacific Northwest, kind of a comma-shaped area, that's the developing energy that's diving to the southeast, which is eventually going to lead to this area of low pressure forming. You can see a classic setup here. We've got deeper moisture moving in the mid-levels of the atmosphere into East Texas through Dallas. That's that low-level jet stream kind of picking up out there with the moisture that's going to feed this storm system. Again, I'm mentioning a lot of things that I normally mention with severe weather threats, but again, this is a very low-end threat for severe weather. Again, keep in mind, the only reason I'm mentioning tornadoes, and probably the only reason any other broadcast meteorologists are mentioning tornadoes, is it's possible we could get a tornado warning in the middle of the night, early morning, Sunday, and I want you to be aware of that. And if we do, it's most likely a situation where you have a spin-up tornado, an EF0 type tornado. And I normally wouldn't do this, but we've seen so many of these kind of warnings as of late, here in the last 2 to 3 years, that it's very possible with the wind shear and the way the person running the radar at the Weather Service office may look at that and issue a tornado warning when indeed it's a very brief area of circulation just due to the high shear. Think of this as like a river, and you can kind of see it here, a river of thunderstorms, and as these storms move through, just like a river, you get the rocks in the way, you get these little turbulent eddies that spin around. That's mainly what we're dealing with, is a fluid dynamic situation. So while the radar may see this briefly, there may be a brief 2-minute tornado kind of thing. It's not our traditional significant threat for severe thunderstorms and tornadoes. So again, I want to try to do that as best I can, because the tornado warnings themselves do not differentiate that, and I've brought that up to the Weather Service. We have a huge problem with these EF0 tornadoes and the warnings that go with them, and it's all because every warning reads the same, when in reality, this setup, if it produces tornadoes, they'll be EF0s, they'll be on the ground for maybe 1.5 minutes, 2 minutes. Again, it's that conservation of angular momentum, so to speak, as these thunderstorms move through. There won't be a lot of lightning because there's not a lot of instability, and that's the main reason we're not looking at a bigger threat for tornadoes. It's primarily isolated damaging winds. So let's talk 7-day forecast, then we're going to go through this hour by hour. Yeah, I'll talk about the pain index coming up here. Yeah, a lot of pressure changes here, and a lot of migraines going on right now in the area. Here's your 10-day forecast. 84 Friday, 85 Saturday. The wind's going to start picking up Friday night into Saturday morning. We're talking gusts to 15, and then those gusts will gradually increase 20 to 25 miles an hour late Saturday. And then Sunday, the storms will move through. We're generally looking at thunderstorms with winds probably 35, 45 miles an hour. An isolated damaging wind gust within that line is a possibility. And as the line moves east, it's where you get line breaks, where you get those little bitty circulations that may form. And we'll watch that especially in the northeast corner of the state as this climbs up Lookout Mountain. So again, those are the things we'll watch out for. And the pollen, the ragweed, it doesn't show it's really high, but I'm pretty sure it's higher than it's being measured, because I see ragweed, more ragweed than I've seen all season on the side of the road. Waiting for our first big frost for that, and it's going to be a while. As you take a look here, 69 degrees Sunday. By 5 o'clock Sunday, it'll be 57 degrees, and it's going to feel like the upper 40s with winds gusting 30 to 35 miles an hour. So watch that. The wind's really going to pick up. The rain should be gone by 9:30, 10 o'clock in the morning. Maybe some drizzle on the back side of the front, but that's it. Down to 44 Monday morning. Monday afternoon, not bad. We got another front coming through Tuesday. I've dropped that chance to 20%. It was 30%. The GFS model's out to lunch with the secondary system coming through. I'll tell you that right now. European model, that's what I base most of my forecast on, and the AI European model. I mean, it's light years above the GFS. It has been all year. 71 Wednesday behind that secondary front. Notice back-to-back mornings in the low to mid 40s. Not quite frost yet. Usually when we get into the 36, 37 degree range, we start to see frost. But down the road, it's probably going to happen around Halloween. I wouldn't be doubting that at all. Notice the cool down here in the trend, we consistently stay in the 70s. So this is that pattern you wait. It finally flips, and we're finally going to have fall for maybe a week. Here's that aches and pains. Mentioning migraines starting to happen more now. We're going to get more sinus pressure as you got a combination of the ragweed, and then you got a combination of the pressure dropping rapidly, then rising rapidly, and you got arthritis issues out there. So there's a lot of different things going on. Fibromyalgia, that tends to be increased, and some of these things that ail you are just due to the humidity increase and then the drop in the humidity. So somebody said if you grew up in the 80s, your knee can now forecast the weather for you, and there's a lot into that for sure. So there's that aches and pains forecast. Here's the storm timeline. I'm going to keep it at this. I'll probably narrow this down a little bit more tomorrow with the more recent model guidance, but I think midnight to 5 a.m. in the gold color, and what we're talking about is from the west side of that polygon, to the east side of it, 12 a.m. to 5 a.m. And I think this window is going to be shorter than what you see, but I'm just kind of trying to broad brush it for you. And then 3 a.m. to 9 a.m. areas east of I-65, including the Huntsville metro area down to Coleman and up to Fayetteville. The colors don't represent intensity at all in this case. It's just showing you the demarcation, so to speak, of where those zones are. So here's what we're looking at as far as impacts. This is early morning event. By the afternoon, it's just wind and falling temperatures. Advancing line of showers and storms somewhere around midnight, moving into West Alabama and tracking to the east. So midnight to 9 a.m., storms track east, heavy rain, isolated damaging winds. And the low-end tornado threat, again, I say it's EF0, but if it knocks a tree down on a mobile home, that's going to cause some issues and maybe some injuries. So we could still see these winds 60, maybe 70 miles per hour with that. Again, I want to really stress there's very little tornado threat here, but we had several tornado warnings last year when we weren't expecting tornadoes, and that's the reason I'm bringing this up, is because I know how the process works now. It works currently. So as we go through here, again, this is going to be the European model. Our graph models, I think it's too early, so I'm not going to have anything before 10 o'clock. So you can see crossing the state line around midnight. There's 1:30 in the morning. Again, Sunday, early Sunday morning. That line continues to move to the east. Now, as we transition tomorrow to the high resolution guidance, it's probably going to be more of a narrow band coming through. The thing is the European model, I think I've got the 9-kilometer resolution on. As we go into the higher resolution, it's going to be more 4-kilometer resolution, maybe even 3-kilometer. Yeah, 3-kilometer resolution. So it gets narrower. So it's kind of like when you wear glasses. As you start out, it's going to be bigger, and then you kind of narrow it in. So I don't normally wear glasses. I just wear reading glasses. So I'm not. But again, on your focus here, it's going to be more of a narrow band coming through at some point. And then eventually it spreads out a bit. So you notice this uniformly moves to the east. This is 8 o'clock in the morning. And we'll continue to watch that track east, and should be over with by 9, but there will be some spotty showers behind this, a little bit of drizzle there as well. I'm going to take a commercial break, then we're going to talk about the rest of the weekend happenings coming up. All right, just 5 more seconds and we're back. There we go. All right, we'll stop the break there. Here's that 3-day forecast. We're going to break down Talladega, Liz Hurley Ribbon Run for you as well. Again, first alert weather day Sunday morning. Then it's just windy in the afternoon. This is not a high-end event. It's a big change in the weather. Want to make sure everyone's aware of it. That's why we do the first alert. 84 degrees tomorrow, 85 Saturday. You're going to notice some high clouds coming in tomorrow. The morning lows get back in the 60s. That's an indicator of the humidity coming back. Again, higher shear, very low instability, if any at all. So there won't be a lot of lightning as this moves in. As we take a look here, yeah, and secure those inflatables, all your holiday decorations. Some of you may have your Christmas lights up by now. As we take a look at the bigger view here, maybe you're going to do some traveling, moving through Memphis around 8 o'clock in the evening, and then the line continues to track to the east, moving into the Shoals around midnight, 1 a.m., moving into the Huntsville metro area around 3 a.m., moving into northeast Alabama around 4 or 5 a.m., and then continuing to move east down to Talladega. Again, they will start the morning with rain if you're camping down there. I don't see much of a severe threat. Maybe some gusty winds to 40 miles an hour, but there will be heavy rain. It may be kind of a muddy mosh pit down there in the infield. Here's your ribbon run forecast. Perfect weather Saturday morning. Winds start gusting 15 to 20 miles an hour by 9 a.m. Here's that race forecast. I think what may happen, the track's going to be wet. The race starts at 1 o'clock. It's possible there could be a delay, but the winds are going to pick up, and that should help dry the track unless we get this backside of the front kind of drizzle, and that's a possibility too. Because you get in the mountainous areas, sometimes it can hang up there, but the front will eventually clear. I think the track will dry faster if it's not raining and those winds are picking up out of the northwest, gusting over 30 miles an hour. And you may need a jacket by the end of the race because the race time temperature probably 71, but by the end of the race, it may be in the low to mid 60s. So be prepared for that. Again, and if they have to delay, it'll be even cooler if it becomes a night race down there. So again, whatever you're doing this weekend, if you're doing some camping, pay attention to the weather Saturday night into Sunday. Sunday afternoon, it's just breezy and cooler and a beautiful fall day. So I like the fall wind out there. It's a change in the seasons. So again, first alert weather day. We'll update you more on the timing of this coming up tomorrow. I'll have a little bit of an update tonight at 10 if the model guidance runs soon enough. But the thing about time change, which is coming up here November 2nd, the only thing I like about it is the 0Z run, meteorologically, the 0Z run will be almost done by the 10 o'clock news, and that is a huge advantage on the next day's forecast, especially when we get into our secondary severe weather season. Again, I thank you for tuning in. I know you got lots of things you could be doing on a Thursday night. Got football season well underway. Steelers are struggling tonight with the Bengals. You guys take care.